There's a kind of war going on inside you. And no, it's not the economy. It's not your deadlines. It's not even your past trauma. It's quieter than that, more subtle. It's the people you let into your life, the ones you text back out of habit, the ones you smile with out of guilt, the ones who sit at your table, drain your energy, and leave your soul just a little more tired every time. And here's the worst part. You probably don't even notice it happening. See, what breaks you isn't always loud. Sometimes it shows up as a friend who always plays the victim, a coworker who complains every single day, a cousin who masks envy with compliments, or that one person in your niche who acts supportive, but only when you're playing small. And before you know it, you start doubting your vision. You hesitate before sharing good news. You lower your standards to keep the peace. This is how emotional erosion works, not by force, but by frequency. That's why this video exists, to show you how to recognize the real threat to your peace, your progress, and your purpose. Because most people are focused on success strategies, routines, morning hacks, cold plunges, journals, biohacks. Great. But if you're surrounded by people who poison your mindset, none of that matters. It's like trying to train for a marathon while dragging ankle weights made of guilt, gossip, and emotional chaos. Now here's what the ancient Stoics knew, and what we've forgotten in the noise of modern life. Associate with those who help you become your best self. Epicurus, that's not just philosophy, that's a survival tactic. In a world full of noise, emotional vampires, and performative positivity, the people around you either lift your discipline or steal your peace. So today I want to introduce you to 3 types of people. Not 11, not 50, just 3. But they show up in so many forms, so many disguises, that you need to know how to recognize them and walk away without guilt. Because your life, your inner world, your energy will always reflect who you allow access. So here's the map. Group 1, the emotional drainers. Let's be real. These are the people who leave you feeling worse after every conversation. They don't shout, they don't threaten, they just leak energy. You share your wins and somehow they change the subject. You try to help and somehow it turns into their drama. They wear pain like a uniform and expect you to salute. Complainers, victims, drama magnets. Their fuel isn't solutions, it's sympathy. Their weapon isn't violence, it's guilt. And their favorite phrase? You've changed. But you know what Stoicism says? Change is the point. Pain is real, but dragging everyone into it, that's a choice. And here's what happens when you keep emotional drainers too close for too long. You stop sharing your goals. You hesitate to shine too brightly. You start thinking your peace is selfish. But it's not. It's sacred. You were not born to carry everyone else's storm. You were meant to master your own mind and let others do the same. Group 2, the mindset corruptors. These ones are trickier. They don't cry. They don't rage. They sound smart. They throw around logic, play devil's advocate. They say things like, "Are you sure you can handle that?" That's risky. Let's be realistic. They mask fear as feedback. On the surface, it sounds helpful, rational, balanced. But underneath, it's insecurity wrapped in concern. These are the people who don't question your plans. They make you question yourself, and that's way more dangerous. See, Stoicism teaches us to respond with reason, not fear, but mindset corruptors reverse that. They make fear feel reasonable. And if you're not careful, you start dialing down your ambition to match their comfort zone. That's how the dream dies. Not with a no, but with a slow, quiet maybe. Group 3, the subtle saboteurs. These are the hardest to catch because they don't push you down. They just keep you from rising. They say, relax, you're doing too much. They call your standards too strict. They treat your discipline like it's a personality flaw. They don't yell. They laugh. They don't discourage. They just want you to live a little. But the damage is deep because they're not attacking your flaws and they're attacking your strengths. And over time, you start softening your edge. You stop tracking your progress. You blur the lines between rest and escape. But the Stoics were clear on this. Pleasure without principle leads to slavery. Epictetus. The world will tell you that comfort is freedom. Stoicism teaches that discipline is. So what's the cost? You start mistaking exhaustion for love, confusion for connection, validation for support. But slowly you drift away from your purpose, away from your values, away from your power. That's the invisible war. It's not about enemies, it's about access. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table, especially when they keep spilling on your peace. Before we dive into each type more deeply, I want to leave you with a question. Who do you feel lighter around? Who do you feel heavier with? Your nervous system knows before your mind does. Trust that. And remember, silence is not cold, and silence is clarity, and boundaries are not rejection, they're protection. So now that you've got the bigger picture, let's zoom in. Let's go deeper into the 3 archetypes we talked about. Not just to name them, but to understand their patterns, and more importantly, how to handle them. The Stoic way. Because this isn't just about cutting people off. This is about building clarity, setting standards, reclaiming peace without guilt. Archetype 1, the victim who wears pain like a badge. You know this one. The person who's always stuck in the same story. The heartbreak from 8 years ago, the job they never got, the unfair system, the unsupportive parents. The universe just doesn't like them. And every time you talk to them, it's the same chapter. Repeated, rehearsed, relived. And at first, you care. Of course you care. You listen, you help, you show up. But then you realize they don't want healing. They want attention. They're not seeking growth. They're seeking a witness for their wounds. And if you stay too long, you start shrinking your own joy just to stay sensitive. You say less, you dim your light, you feel guilty for moving forward. But Stoicism teaches us, you are not what happened to you, you are how you choose to respond. Epictetus. See, the victim archetype violates the Stoic ideal of agency, of inner command. The Stoic acknowledges pain but doesn't become it. The victim embraces pain as identity, and if you're not careful, their lens becomes yours. Their limitations start framing your decisions. Because victimhood is contagious, not emotionally but philosophically. And here's the cost of staying too close. You lose your edge. You trade responsibility for sympathy. You start believing that healing means sitting still instead of rising up. So how do you handle it? The Stoic way. Empathize without enabling. You can care without carrying. It's okay to say, I see your pain, but I also see your power. What do you want to do about it? Separate identity from emotion. They're allowed to feel. You're allowed to move on. You don't owe anyone your stagnation just to prove your loyalty. Encourage ownership, not outsourcing. And add questions like, what can you control right now? Who do you want to become? Because transformation starts when blame ends. Archetype 2, the manipulator who sounds like a mentor. This one's even sneakier. They don't yell, they don't throw fits. They smile, they compliment. They say things like, I'm just looking out for you. You should really consider, don't overthink, just trust me. At first they seem wise, grounded, a little intense maybe, but helpful. Then something shifts. You start second-guessing yourself. You start apologizing for setting boundaries. You start wondering if you're the problem. That's not guidance, that's manipulation. And Stoicism has a word for what they're trying to take. Sovereignty. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. But manipulators don't want you to trust your thoughts. They want to insert theirs. They want access to your clarity. They want control not through power, but through confusion. And the scariest part? The more emotionally intelligent you are, the more they target you. Because you listen, you care, you hesitate to walk away. So what's the cost? You become compliant. You start to over-explain. You shrink your voice to preserve their comfort. But here's the Stoic truth. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means sovereignty. How to handle manipulators. Stoic style. Reclaim your internal authority. You don't owe explanations for protecting your peace. If someone makes you feel bad for drawing a boundary, that's not love. That's leverage. Watch behavior, not words. Manipulators speak well, but they repeat patterns. So track that. Ask yourself, do their actions match their advice? Set boundaries without drama. Don't argue, don't justify. Don't negotiate your energy, just decide. And let your actions reinforce your clarity. And if they walk away, let them, because you're not here to be manageable. You're here to be masterful over your mind, your choices, your emotional world. Archetype 3, the overindulgent who makes weakness look like freedom. Now this one, they're fun, they laugh loud, they say things like, come on, life's too short. Don't take it so seriously. You can't be disciplined all the time. They mean well, they're not angry, they're not toxic, but they're dangerous because they normalize weakness. They make mediocrity feel like a lifestyle. They package avoidance as balance. And over time, you buy it. You skip the gym just once. You binge Netflix. I deserve it. You delay your goals. I'll get to it later. But Stoicism says this: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. But you cannot be free if you are a slave to your passions. Epictetus. See, indulgence feels good in the moment, but over time, it rots your edge. And when you're surrounded by people who make discipline look extreme, you stop demanding more from yourself. Before you know it, you're reacting to life, not designing it. How to handle this archetype? Be the counterexample. You don't need to lecture. Just let your consistency speak louder than their chaos. Reframe discipline. Don't see it as punishment. See it as self-respect in motion. Discipline isn't restriction. It's refinement. Protect your inner environment. If your circle mocks structure, belittles growth, avoids challenge, change the room, or build your own. Because here's the truth: comfort is addictive, but greatness is built on tension. And you can't rise if the people around you keep handing you pillows when what you need is pressure. Let's slow down here for a second. Ask yourself, who in your life drains you, even if they're nice? Who confuses your clarity with their charm? Who makes laziness look noble? And most importantly, have you been lowering your standards to protect someone else's comfort? It's not selfish to grow. It's not arrogant to rise. And it's not wrong to leave behind what weakens you. As the Stoics would say, don't just think clearly, live clearly. So now you know the archetypes. You've seen the faces, the victim, the manipulator, the overindulgent, and maybe you've already recognized them in your life, in your circle, in your inbox, or maybe in the mirror. That's okay, because this isn't about blame. It's about clarity. It's about reclaiming what's yours, your time, your energy, your mind. And to do that, you need to build something the Stoics called the inner fortress, a place no one else can access without permission, where your peace isn't negotiable, where your mindset isn't for sale, where your values are the guards at the gate, and emotion doesn't run the kingdom. Let's build it. Principle 1, strategic silence. You don't need to argue to create distance. You don't need a 10-paragraph explanation to draw a line. You don't need to fight every battle. You just need to stop attending the war. Strategic silence is not the absence of courage. It's the presence of control. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Epictetus, when someone keeps pulling you into drama, stop feeding it. When someone drains your focus with excuses, stop fixing them. When someone manipulates you with guilt, stop justifying your peace. Here's a truth you might need to hear today. You are not an unpaid therapist for someone who refuses to heal. You are not obligated to sacrifice your mental clarity just to seem like a good friend. There is power in silence, not coldness, clarity, not rejection, redirection. Your life speaks louder when your words stop chasing what doesn't deserve them. Principle 2, psychological boundaries. Let's be real. Most people set boundaries with words, but Stoics set them with actions. You don't need to declare, I'm protecting my peace. You just need to walk different, respond different, limit access, preserve your energy like it's sacred. Because it is. Your emotional world is real estate. Not everyone deserves a key. Here's the Stoic reframe. Boundaries are not punishment. They're protection. They're how you say, I no longer abandon myself to accommodate others. I'm not available for conversations that compromise my values. I don't argue with people committed to misunderstanding me. You teach people how to treat you by what you continue to allow. So protect your peace not with guilt, but with grace. Principle 3, audit your circle, not just your habits. Everyone wants a better morning routine, better discipline, better focus, better results. But few people ask, who am I allowing to influence my internal operating system? Because motivation is temporary, but influence, it's sneaky, subconscious. It creeps in through casual texts, fake support, emotional noise. And here's what the Stoics knew. You are not strong enough to resist toxic influence forever. You're not weak. You're human, and energy is contagious. So if your circle normalizes complaining, excuses, blame, indulgence, gossip, you will eventually normalize it too. That's not judgment, that's neuroscience. So ask yourself, who do I feel emotionally lighter around? Who encourages clarity, discipline, and truth? Who respects my boundaries even when it's inconvenient for them? Your inner circle should reflect your highest standard, not your oldest patterns. And if that means walking alone for a season, walk with pride. The Stoics often spoke of solitude as strength. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius, so protect your color, protect your frequency, protect your thoughts, because that's where your future lives. 3 questions to ask yourself tonight. Let's end with 3 questions that'll reset your compass. Take these seriously, even write them down. Am I surrounding myself with people who respect my peace or constantly test it? Have I been dimming my light just to stay digestible to those who fear their own? What would my life look like if I only gave access to people who help me rise? Because here's the truth. You don't owe anyone access to your growth just because they were present for your pain. You can forgive someone and still block their number. You can wish them well and never see them again. You can love someone and still choose your peace. That's not being harsh. That's being sovereign. Your silence is a statement. We live in a world that rewards noise. More posts, more opinions, more drama, more connection. But the Stoics lived in discipline, in restraint, in truth over trend. So here's what you do now. Let go without guilt. Step back without explaining. Guard your peace like it's royalty, because it is. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table, especially if they've poisoned every meal they've shared with you. So if you're ready to rise, in silence, with strength, with vision, then make the decision today to stop being available for what weakens you, to stop chasing connection that costs your clarity, to stop explaining boundaries that were never meant to be negotiated. Because once you master yourself, once you take ownership of your inner world, you become unshakable, and the world can't destroy what it no longer has access to. If this spoke to you, share it. Not for me, but for someone still stuck in relationships that make them question their worth. Drop this in the comments if you're ready. I protect my peace, I protect my path. Let the world know you're not walking away from people. You're walking toward yourself. Walk in silence. Stand in truth and rise like no one saw it coming.